Hello everyone, this is Eli, and today I'll be installing heated grips on my Yamaha MT-09. So I purchased the grip heater from Yamaha, and I'm going to install them today. So I'm going to be using a few tools today. I'm going to be using the standard T sockets for most of my job, a ratchet, a flat screwdriver. This will help me take the existing grips off. It'll help me break the glue off. And also I'll be using the little trick I learned, WD-40, to also break up the glue inside the handle grip. And I'll show you how to do that. It's super simple. And then I'll be using some soapy water. In my case, I'm using Windex to slip the new grips on. I'm also going to be using my service manual, and the service manual, what I'm really looking for is how to adjust the throttle grip play once I install the new throttle grip. So I'm going to be closely looking at that. Essentially what they say, the play on your throttle grip before it engages should be between 3 and 5 millimeters, or 0.12 to 0.20 inches. So, but it's easier to measure in millimeters. Essentially the play should be about this much. I don't know if you can tell. Anyways, so I'll be using my service manual to help me with adjusting the throttle cable. They have some steps. It's pretty simple. There's going to be a lock nut on the throttle cable and an adjusting nut, which if you turn towards your bike, it's going to tighten the cable, and if you turn it away from your bike, it's going to loosen the cable. So it should be a pretty simple process, and we'll go through it together. So the grips come with the instructions, fairly good instructions. Let's see here. They show you all the parts, which essentially, I'm gonna open up a box here in a second, but essentially it comes with the left grip and comes with the right grip, and then it also includes routing brackets for your cables, since on the right hand side now you're gonna have 3 cables going through the routing cable bracket, so it has an additional slot for one more cable in there. There's some looks like a mounting bracket, some screws, and some zip ties. So anyways, let's go ahead and take a look what comes in the box here. So some black zip ties to help you route the cables. Let's see here. Okay, so this is the new routing bracket for your cables. So as you can see, it'll help you, manage your cables. So what's in here? Okay, and then second, I wonder if it's the same piece or not. Okay, it is. So this is the new routing. So it looks like this hole is going to be for my heater grip electrical wire, and this is going to be for my idle and throttle cable. Okay, let's see what else is in here. Alright, so this is the throttle grip. Let's see if we can open this. Yep, so here's the throttle grip. This is where idle and throttle cable plug in. Pretty simple. Cable and the connector, which is gonna connect on a bike, and I'll show you guys where to plug this in. Okay, and then the clutch side grip, Okay, same thing, just a cable. So the clutch side has a black connector, the throttle side has a gray connector, and there should be matching connectors on the bike once we install them. Get all this situated. Alright, and the last part they gave us, let's see. So they gave us a hollow bolt. This bolt goes on the end of your bar where the hand guards connect to. So it has to be replaced on one side. They just give you one. I believe it's on the clutch side, or maybe on the throttle side. I have to look at the instructions one more time. Let's see what this is. This looks like some cable management bracket. I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna double check. And I believe this is it. So let's go over this again. So we got the throttle side grip, and got the clutch side grip. We got the hollow bolt. We got the cable management bracket, and looks like another cable management bracket, and some zip ties. Okay guys, so this is it, and let's get going. Okay guys, so to start, what we're going to do, we're gonna take off the bolt off the handguard on the side of the handlebar, and move this piece out of the way so we can work on a grip. You don't have to take the entire handguard off. You just need to loosen this one bolt, take the bolt out, and kind of wiggle it out of the way. So all I'm gonna use this T30 socket, and I'm gonna go ahead and get it loose. Okay, so just take the hardware parts out and just set them aside. Obviously you're gonna reuse them, but now I can angle the handguard off a little bit so I can take this grip off. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing on the right hand side of the bar. Okay, take the hardware parts out and set them aside, and angle the handguard out of the way. Alright, so once you got the handguard out of the way, the next step is to take off the existing grip on the clutch side. This piece is glued on, so the way I take these grips off, I use a flat screwdriver. And essentially what I do, I stick it in there, and work it just a little bit, starting to break the glue off. And what I do next, I use the WD-40. I make myself an opening with the screwdriver, and then I just spray a little bit of WD-40, and what it allows me to do, it allows me to break off the glue. So and it also lubricates it for me. So I'm just gonna stick it in there, and then spread it just a little bit, spray it. Okay, once it's in there, I'm gonna go ahead and start working the screwdriver a little bit. This is not gonna hurt the grip. it stretches, and you can always reuse the grip in the future if you'd like to. So I'm just working it on all sides here. And then what I like to do, I like to twist the grip a little bit. Okay, and then just continue doing that. And maybe use a little bit more WD-40. Just stick it as deep as I possibly can and then spray it in there. And then just keep working the glue off. Okay, and once you get all the glue off and get the WD-40 in there all the way, you can just pull off the grip. Comes off easily, and look, there's no glue left on the bar itself. WD-40 took care of all the glue, and your grip is actually intact and can be reused. There's no need to cut your grips off. So this is the easiest way I know of to take your grips off, minus using the compressed air. Okay, and for the next step, we need to take this hollow bolt out. Essentially, this bolt prevents the grip from slipping off the bar. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover my hand grip with a towel, so I don't scratch it accidentally. And then to remove this hollow bolt out, you need a 12mm socket to take it off. I'm just going to use the T60 socket, which fits in here perfectly, and that's what I'll use. But on the instructions it says use the 12mm. So there it goes. Okay, and the hollow bolt is out. Alright guys, and before we install the heater grip on the left hand side of the bar, I went to forums prior to the installation and to Yamaha forums and read what people said about the grips and gave their reviews. They said that the left hand grip warms up way faster and burns more than the right hand side, so the heating level is different on each handlebar, and this is due to because the left hand side sits directly on the bar and the bar heats up faster, and on the throttle side, and let me just show you. And on the throttle side, if you look at the grip, there's the heating element sits on a plastic bracket, on a plastic tube, so it heats up slower. So what a lot of people done on the forums, they actually applied electrical tape on the left hand side to make the heating levels even on both sides. Some people say they put one layer of electrical tape, some people put two, but it'll be kind of tough to slip the grip on with two layers, but I'm gonna give it a try anyways. So I'm gonna use the electrical tape I'm gonna wrap it around the bar, and then I'm gonna slip the grip on top of it. So let's give it a try. So I'm just gonna go for 2 layers of electrical tape. Let's see if I can actually fit the grip back on. Okay, here we go. We got 2 layers of the electrical tape. So what I'd like to do next, I'm gonna use this Pro Taper grip glue. This is the only one I have from my previous project. Essentially, it's just super glue, really. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to apply it to the bar here. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little tiny bit. And it dries fast, so I have to work quickly. So I'm going to take my grip, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna spray Windex in it, or soapy water. Then I'm gonna go ahead and slip it on there if I can. Okay, so what you want to do, you want to have the wiring cable facing down once you put the grip on. So it was a really tight fit, but I made it work. So I'm gonna go ahead at this point and reinstall the hollow bolt back into place. And like I said, I'm not gonna torque it at all. I'm just gonna tighten it until it doesn't turn anymore, and then give it a little turn. That's it. Not even a quarter of a turn. So it's in place, and I'm gonna go ahead and install the hardware back in place. And again, not super tight, just finger tight until it stops turning, and then a quarter of a turn. That's plenty of torque. Okay, so the clutch side is done, and now we're gonna go ahead and move to the throttle. And now for the right hand side, on the throttle side, what we need to do, first thing we need to do is remove the upper cable housing. It's just 2 bolts right here. It takes for me, it takes the T25 socket. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get them off. Okay. And the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take off the rubber boots of the idle and throttle cable, and also of the throttle cable. So there's just this little clip. I'm gonna take the clip off, and then just gonna slide the rubber boot off, and that will expose the lock nut and the adjusting nut on the cable. Okay. And then I'm gonna take off the upper housing. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the cables. So the top cable is the throttle cable, and the bottom cable is the idle cable. So I'm just gonna turn throttle cable, and one thing I'm noticing, the throttle cable, the upper cable goes on the right spot, and the idling cable going on the left side. I'm just gonna go ahead and slip them out. And before I can slide the grip off, I need to take this hollow bolt out, which again takes the T60 or 12 millimeter socket, and I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Okay, it's out. All right, and now we can take this throttle grip off. There you go. Alright guys, so at this point I'm ready to install my new throttle grip, which will require me to install the new upper housing for the cables. And before I do that, what I like to do, I like to take my WD-40 and I like to spray inside the grip so it's more slick when turning. You don't have to do that. I like to do that, so it's up to you. There you go. Okay, and for the next step, what we're going to do, we're gonna reinstall the throttle and the idle cable. As I said previously, the upper cable here plugs in to the top, and the idle cable plugs into the bottom. There we go. Okay, and the next step is to install the upper bracket here. And the only thing you have to keep in mind, the bigger hole here, that's where the idle and the throttle cable goes in, and the smaller hole is where the electrical cable goes through. So just make sure you fit the electrical cable through the small hole. Okay, let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, once you have your bracket in place, put the little bolts back in. And then slip the boot back into place. And notice I haven't tightened these bolts. They're loosely tight, so I can adjust. And right now I'm checking the free play. Notice I haven't adjusted my idle or throttle cable. I left them as they were, and I'm just looking at the free play, and it seems to be okay. I'm getting between 5 millimeters play right now, and I think that's perfect. I don't have to adjust. I left it as it was, but if I wanted to play more with the play, I would break this lock nut and I would play around with the adjusting nut until I get 5 millimeters of play. But since it already has that, I don't think I need to adjust anything. And also I'd like to show you, So here's my throttle and idle cables, and here's my wiring cable coming off this hole. So just make sure you route the cables properly. They tell you to make a little loop inside. This is the wiring cable, because it's a little bit too long so that it can fit through this hole. But it's fairly simple, and it was easy to install. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and put the rubber boot back on over the locking nut. And I'm gonna clip the little clip back in so the cables are together. Okay, and at this point I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these two bolts down, not super tight. I'm just gonna turn them until they don't turn anymore, and just give it a quarter of a turn. There you go. That's it. And for the next step, I'm gonna go ahead and install the hollow bolt that the kit provided for me on the right hand side. Remember, we reused the hollow bolt on the left hand side, but we're gonna use the hollow bolt included with the installation on the right hand side. Okay, and again, not super tight. Just turn it until it doesn't turn anymore. And a quarter of a turn. Okay, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the hardware for the handguard. Slip them inside. A slight torque. And we're done. Alright, at this point all we have left to do is connect the two cables coming from each heater grip onto the bike. And to get to the connectors, we have to take on the right hand side cowlings. It's this portion right here and this guy right here. All it takes is just 3 bolts for the upper cowling on top and 3 bolts for the, actually 2 bolts for the lower cowling. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these bolts out with my T25 socket and remove the cowlings. Okay, and as I'm going along, I'm finding more little bolts to take out. Okay, and at this point the right hand side cowling is off. At first I thought that there's just going to be 3 screws on each side, but actually as I was taking the little screws out I found more little bolts under. No big deal. You'll see exactly where they are and what's holding the cowl in place. So anyways, so now we have the connectors exposed, and all we have to do is now to find the plugs for the heater grips. Alright guys, it took me a while, but I did find where the heater grips need to plug in. So I'm on the right hand side of the bike. I took the side cowling off, and there's this plastic sleeve right here, and there's two connectors. I don't know if you can see it. There's a black and a gray connector. They just have to match the black and gray connectors on your cables coming off your grips. So right hand side throttle is a gray, clutch side is black. So now all I have to do is just route the cables, zip them up, and plug them into those plugs. Okay, so what we want to do, here's the clutch side, and now I'm looking right under the controls. See this groove over here? That's where the cable needs to go. It's gonna clip into this groove like so, and then it's gonna follow this cable. Sorry for the camera placement, I kinda have to hold it in place. So I'm just gonna route it through here and down the center, so then it comes down on the right hand side of the bike here, and I'm just gonna route it back into the connector right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. So once you have your cowl back on and routed the cables, you're pretty much done. So I just followed, as far as routing cables, I just followed the line down to the engine, same way on the throttle side. I'm gonna use another zip tie to tie these guys down. But essentially this is done, and let me just show you guys how to operate your heating grips. So it's fairly simple. You just turn on your bike, and you're gonna be looking right here. That's where your heating setting is gonna be, and all you have to do to start using your heating grips, just hit the menu button once. There you go. And right now it's on the highest level of heating. So all you have to do to change the heat level setting is to use your controls here, down and up. So heat, off, first level heating, second level heating, third level heating. And that's all there is to it. I've turned on my bike, I've tested my heating grips. One thing I noticed, they take a while to heat up. They take about 5 minutes to heat up, but no big deal. So I hope this video has been helpful to you guys, and I'd like to thank you for watching.